Imagine it's a quiet Saturday morning, the kind where the world feels slow and kind again. You're standing on your porch with a cup of tea, watching the light drift over your garden beds. The air smells of fresh-cut grass, that sweet, earthy perfume that says summer has arrived. Around you, the yard is sprinkled with green clippings, bits and pieces of life that most folks bag up, toss away, or leave by the curb. But what if those scraps held a secret? What if the very thing you've been throwing out could be transformed into something your plants crave, a golden living fertilizer made right at home? You see, many of us grew up believing good soil had to come from store-bought bags or long months of composting. We've accepted the waiting, the turning, the smell, the critters, all in the name of doing it right. But what if the real magic didn't require so much work? What if you could take what's already in your hands, grass leaves, kitchen scraps, and in just 3 short weeks, turn it into the richest, most nourishing food your garden has ever known? This isn't wishful thinking. It's an old practice with a new name: fermentation. A gentle, natural process that lets helpful microbes do the hard work for you. No back-breaking turning, no sour piles, no waiting half a year for results. Just patience, curiosity, and a bucket. By the time we're done here, you might just look at those grass clippings differently, not as waste, but as the beginning of something extraordinary. Let's be honest, dear friend, many of us have tried composting with the best of intentions. We wanted to do our part to recycle our scraps and build rich soil from what we already have. But after a few weeks, the charm can fade. The pile gets soggy and smelly. Flies show up. Maybe a raccoon or two decides it's a free buffet. And the hardest part, you wait and wait. And sometimes, half a year later, you're still turning a mound that looks more like trouble than treasure. I remember visiting my neighbor Carol, a kind woman in her 70s who tended her backyard with love. One summer, she proudly showed me her new compost bin, a big wooden box by the fence. "It's going to make the best soil in town," she said. But by late August, the enthusiasm had turned to frustration. "It smells awful." She laughed, and the raccoons think I opened a restaurant. She stopped using it altogether, tired of the mess and the waiting. That's when we discovered something better, something simpler. You see, traditional composting depends on oxygen and balance. Too much green, it rots. Too much brown, it stalls. It's a delicate dance that demands time and energy, something not everyone has to spare. And what's more, much of that precious nitrogen, the very thing your plants need, most simply escapes into the air during decomposition. That faint ammonia smell, that's your nutrients gone with the wind. Fermentation, on the other hand, flips the script. It's not about decay, it's about transformation. Instead of losing nutrients, you lock them in. Instead of fighting nature, you work with it. And for gardeners who prefer a cleaner, gentler rhythm, that shift makes all the difference. Carol's disappointment turned to curiosity the day I handed her an old 5-gallon bucket and a jar of molasses. "Trust me," I said, "you're not going to make compost, you're going to make pickles for your garden." She laughed, but she listened. That's really what fermentation is: the art of letting good microbes turn your waste into gold. It's a patient partnership with nature, and once you understand it, the simplicity feels almost miraculous. Fermentation isn't new. It's the same quiet science that turns milk into yogurt and cabbage into sauerkraut. The secret is that instead of letting things rot in open air, you give them a cozy, air-free home where friendly bacteria thrive. They feast on the natural sugars in your grass or kitchen scraps, releasing gentle acids that preserve nutrients and create a sweet, sour aroma instead of that rotten smell so many of us dread. It's a cleaner, quieter way to recycle life back into the soil without the mess or the waiting. When Carol tried it, she couldn't believe how easy it was. She filled her bucket halfway with grass clippings, added a bit of water, and molasses sealed the lid, and waited. Within days, the mixture began to bubble softly like a pot of homemade soup simmering in the sun. "It smells like apple cider," she told me, eyes wide with surprise. 3 weeks later, she poured that dark, rich liquid around her tomatoes, and for the first time, they grew taller than her fence. Fermentation reminds us that nature doesn't always need our control. Sometimes it just needs our trust. Instead of forcing decay, we guide renewal. It's the same with life, isn't it? The gentlest methods often bring the greatest growth. If you've ever wondered why fermentation works so beautifully, It all comes down to the tiniest gardeners. You'll never see microbes. These little helpers, especially lactic acid bacteria, are the same ones that make pickles crisp and yogurt tangy. When you seal grass clippings or vegetable peels inside an airtight bucket, you're creating their perfect home, dark, warm, and free of oxygen. Instead of the chaos of decay, you get an orderly process of transformation. Here's what makes it special. First, fermentation preserves nitrogen instead of letting it escape as ammonia gas like traditional compost does. That's why your bucket smells pleasantly sour instead of sharp or rotten. Every bubble you see means those microbes are working, locking in nutrients your plants can use immediately. Second, the acidic environment makes it nearly impossible for harmful bacteria or mold to survive. In other words, nature's version of a self-cleaning system. And third, the organic acids created during fermentation dissolve tough plant materials, making minerals more available to your garden roots later on. I remember testing a small batch once, half lawn clippings, half vegetable scraps. The liquid that came out was the color of dark tea and smelled faintly of cider vinegar. I diluted it and watered my marigolds. Within 2 weeks, the leaves deepened to a lush green and the blooms turned almost fiery in color. No chemicals, no store-bought fertilizer, just the gentle strength of microbes doing what they do best. When we let go of the idea that we must control everything, something changes. Fermentation shows us that life can renew itself quietly in a sealed bucket on your porch. All we have to do is create the right space and then step back and let nature hum. Now let's make this simple enough for anyone, whether you've got a big backyard or just a patio garden. You don't need fancy gear or scientific know-how. All you need is a 5-gallon food-grade bucket with a lid, a bit of patience, and a sense of curiosity. Think of it as a mini ecosystem in a container small enough to fit beside your shed or under your porch. Start by filling your bucket about 2/3 full with fresh grass clippings. Not dry hay, not old rotted leaves, just those green trimmings from your last mow. Then add enough water to cover them. For most buckets, that's about 2 gallons. Now comes the magic ingredient, molasses. Just 2 tablespoons per gallon of water will do. It feeds the good bacteria the same way sugar feeds yeast in bread dough. To kickstart the process, add about a 1/4 cup of rice, rinse water, or a spoonful of effective microorganisms if you happen to have it. These jumpstart the fermentation and make sure your mix gets off on the right foot. Once it's all mixed, seal your bucket tightly. If you want to be fancy, you can add a small tube from the lid into a jar of water, an airlock that lets gases escape while keeping oxygen out. But honestly, a snug lid works fine. Store it somewhere warm, around 70 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That could be a sunny spot by your garage or tucked beneath your porch steps. That's it. No turning, no layering, no constant fussing. Just seal and let nature do her quiet work. Within a week, you'll see small bubbles along the edges when you peek inside, a sure sign of life. It's strangely satisfying to know that even in that humble bucket, a whole community of helpful microbes is busy making gold for your garden. There's something almost meditative about waiting for nature to do her work. You don't stir the bucket, you don't add anything, you just let time and warmth weave their quiet spell. Within days, you'll notice the change. The bubbling begins softly, like a pot of tea that's just starting to simmer. If you lift the lid carefully, a faint, sweet, sour scent greets you, not the sharp rot of compost, but something closer to cider or pickled vegetables. That's how you know it's working. I'll never forget the first time Carol called me during her experiment. "It's bubbling," she said, half delighted, half worried. "Should I be scared?" We both laughed. I told her that gentle bubbling was the sound of life, the microbes feasting, growing, and creating something beautiful. She kept her bucket near a sunny wall, checking it once a week. 3 weeks later, the bubbles slowed, the scent mellowed, and the grass had turned into a soft, golden brown mix that looked like steeped tea leaves. "It's ready," I told her, and she could hardly wait to try it. That first scoop into her garden bed was a revelation. She sprinkled it lightly across her soil, and within days her herbs looked fuller, her basil leaves brighter. It's hard to describe, but there's a quiet satisfaction in knowing you made something alive, something healing without chemicals or expense, just trust and time. If you ever doubt whether this process is working, remember this good fermentation smells clean and sour, not rotten. A few bubbles mean your microbes are thriving. If it smells terrible, you may have let too much air in, but even then, all is not lost. Just bury it in your soil, and the earth will finish what you started. Nature is forgiving like that. She always finds a way to turn our little mistakes into lessons. Once your fermented mixture has finished its quiet transformation, you've got what I like to call garden gold. You can use it in a few different ways depending on your plants and space. Each one is simple, gentle on your body, and deeply nourishing for your soil. The first method is to work it directly into the soil. Spread about an inch of your fermented greens across your garden bed and lightly mix it into the top layer of dirt with a small hand trowel or gloved fingers. No heavy digging, no bending over long, just a light stir to blend life into your soil. This instantly begins feeding your plants with the nutrients those microbes locked in. I've watched elderly gardeners do this while sitting comfortably on a garden stool, moving slowly, almost meditatively. The second way is to use it as a top dressing. Simply place small handfuls of the fermented material around the base of your plants, tomatoes, roses, herbs, whatever you're growing. Leave a bit of space between the fertilizer and the stems, and then let it be. As the mixture continues to break down, it releases nutrients right where the roots can reach them. It's like leaving small gifts at the feet of your plants to be unwrapped by the soil itself. And finally, my favorite way, making a liquid fertilizer. Strain the fermented liquid and mix 1 part of it with 10 to 20 parts water, depending on how strong you want it. For gentle sprays on leaves, go lighter. For a deeper soil, soak a 1 to 10 mix gives a real boost. I pour mine into a simple watering can and let it flow across the soil, soaking into the roots like morning rain. Every time I do, I think about how effortless it all feels, how something that once looked like waste can now pulse with life. Your garden will show its gratitude in deeper greens, faster growth, and blooms that seem to hum with energy. Once you've seen how well fermented grass nourishes your soil, it's only natural to start wondering, what else can I feed my garden this way? The truth is, almost anything organic can join the party. Think of your kitchen and garden scraps not as waste, but as ingredients for your next batch of fertilizer. Banana peels, coffee grounds, shredded leaves, old herbs, even weeds. All of them can be transformed through the same gentle process. A friend of mine, June, who grows roses on her balcony in Ohio, once told me she used to throw away her banana peels after breakfast. One day she decided to experiment. She chopped them up, added a handful of coffee grounds, and tucked them into a jar with warm water and a spoonful of molasses. 3 weeks later, she poured the mixture around her roses. I swear she told me with a smile they blushed brighter than they had in years. Banana peels are full of potassium, just what flowering plants need to bloom their best. Seaweed works wonders too, especially if you live near the coast or can buy dried sheets at a store. It's rich in trace minerals that your soil often lacks. Simply rinse it to remove salt and ferment it like you would with grass. And here's a pleasant surprise. Even those pesky weeds you pull can serve a purpose. Fermenting them destroys their seeds, so you can safely use them without fear of spreading more. The best part of this method is its flexibility. If you garden on a small balcony, mason jars will do just fine. If you have a big backyard, you can scale up to barrels. The principle stays the same. It's a process that adjusts to your space, your time, and your needs. What started as a single bucket of grass clippings becomes an entire way of seeing the world differently. Nothing wasted, everything renewed. It's humbling, really, how nature can take what we discard and hand it back as life itself. The beauty of fermentation isn't just what it gives your plants today, it's what it builds for tomorrow. When you pour or spread that fermented mix into your garden, you're not just feeding crops, you're feeding the living world beneath them. Every drop and crumb invites new life into the soil. Earthworms, good bacteria, and fungi that knit the ground together like threads in a warm quilt. Over time, your soil becomes softer, darker, and more resilient, just as we do when life teaches us patience. Healthy soil holds moisture longer, meaning your plants can endure summer's heat with less watering. It stores nutrients more efficiently, so even a small garden thrives like a well-fed forest. And perhaps most beautifully, it creates balance, less need for chemical fertilizers, fewer pest problems, and more harmony between what grows and what decays. In a world where so much feels rushed and disposable, fermentation teaches slowness and gratitude. I once helped an older couple, James and Linda, who had nearly given up on their backyard vegetable patch. "The soil's dead," James told me. "No matter what we plant, it just won't take." We started small, 2 buckets of fermented greens. After a season, their soil was darker, crumbly, alive again. Worms returned. The next spring, they harvested more than they had in years. "It's like the earth woke up," Linda said softly, running her hand through the soil as though greeting an old friend. That's what this process does. It revives not just the ground, but the gardener too. There's a quiet joy in knowing that through simple care you can leave the earth better than you found it. Fermentation is not just about fertilizer, it's about renewal. With each batch, you're building something that will outlast a single season, a thriving living ecosystem that will feed you, your family, and your soul for years to come. For many gardeners, once they experience fermentation, there's no turning back. Composting, though traditional and noble, demands space, strength, and stamina. Turning piles, hauling shovelfuls, waiting months for something usable. Fermentation, on the other hand, feels effortless, almost peaceful. It fits into the rhythm of real life, especially for those of us who no longer move as fast as we once did. I remember asking Carol months after her first experiment if she'd ever go back to composting. She laughed. "Not a chance," she said, patting her bucket like an old friend. Why would I trade 3 weeks for 6 months? Her garden had become a living example of the change. Deeper greens, fuller blooms, and soil that smelled of rain and health. She even began teaching her grandchildren how to make their own garden brew, showing them that nature rewards patience, not force. And that's the true heart of this method. It gives you back something beyond the physical peace of mind. No more worrying about pests or piles taking over your yard. No heavy lifting, no unpleasant odors. Just a bucket or 2 quietly transforming scraps into nourishment. It's gardening reduced to its essence: simplicity, care, and gratitude. I've seen people light up when they realize how accessible this is. One retired teacher told me, "It makes me feel like I'm part of something alive again." That's the secret beauty of fermentation. It reconnects you with the cycles of life. Every bubble in that bucket is a reminder that nature doesn't waste. Everything given time and kindness becomes useful again. So, if you've been discouraged by composting, consider this your invitation to start anew. Your garden doesn't need perfection, it just needs participation. And maybe as you open that lid to find your own liquid gold, you'll realize that growth often begins in the most humble of places. So here's my gentle encouragement, dear friend. The next time you mow your lawn or peel a banana, don't see those scraps as trash. See them as the beginning of something new. You don't need strength or expensive tools, just a bucket, a spoonful of sweetness, and a little patience. Fermentation is proof that nature rewards the quiet caretaker, the one who believes that small, steady efforts can create beauty over time. When I visit gardens that have adopted this practice, I see more than healthy plants, I see hope. There's a calm pride in knowing you've turned waste into nourishment, that you've given something back to the soil that's fed you all these years. It's a circle humble but complete. Even the smallest patch of earth can thrive again with care, and so can we. As we age, we often look for gentler ways to live, ways that don't exhaust, but restore. Fermentation feels like that, simple, forgiving, and alive. Imagine sitting on your porch, a soft breeze moving through the leaves, knowing that in a quiet bucket nearby, life is brewing life that will spill back into your garden, into your flowers, into your heart. That's the kind of peace no store-bought fertilizer can give. It's not just about faster results. It's about rediscovering the joy of working with nature, not against her. So give it a try. Start small. Let curiosity lead the way. And when your garden rewards you with brighter blooms and richer soil, take a moment to smile. You've joined a quiet, beautiful movement that's healing the earth one bucket at a time. Until next time, happy gardening, dear friend. May your soil stay alive, your heart stay curious, and your hands always find something worth growing.